Resume recording. So let's get into the gallery view. So this is another episode of Diana and Scott Talk Travel, but this is a kind of a unique episode. We're going to have a guest. We have a guest of Chip Capelli, who has some experience in finance and accounting, and this is a different type of episode. We felt that rather than talking travel over and over again, we would talk business. So Laura and I wrote an article recently, which is posted, and Brittany will post it as well in the Facebook group, but about what it's like to do business during a pandemic. And let me just say this, it's not fun at all. No. But we believe that if you keep your eye on the ball and focus on fundamentals and try to build a brand, you're gonna be successful if you can get through this year. And reflecting on that article that we all read in advance of this, I think that it's going to make us stronger when we come out of this, but it's painful going through it. And I don't think that anyone expected it to be, in July and August and talking about, still the pandemic. We were all just, kind of feeling that, we'd be trending up. If anything, I think that, the outburst in, throughout, the South and the West and the limitations on travel to Europe, not limitations, restrictions, it's not good. So, with that, I want to introduce Chip, who comes to us by recommendation of, I forgot who recommended you, Chip. It was who? Victor recommended you. So I'm going to give you a moment to talk a little bit about your background, and then I noticed that we had Per involved. I want to give him a proper introduction as well. So go have at it.
Okay, my name is Chip Capelli. I am an accountant living in Provincetown, Massachusetts, which is all the way at the end of Cape Cod. It's the end of the world. And I have an accounting practice here in a resort town. I also specialize in nonprofit accounting. My biggest client is a nonprofit social service agency in Philadelphia. I've been doing this for about 30 years. I've had my own practice for about 13. And I have 3 offices across 4 states. We do tax prep, small business accounting, nonprofit accounting, and payroll.
That's so you have a really familiar with how small businesses in resort towns like ours are impacted.
Absolutely.
And we have a lot of insight that we could provide. Thank you for that introduction. We all know Dirk, who, let me remind everyone, he's a recurring, my favorite guest, who is our primary manufacturer for SCOTTeVEST. And he's done a great job, and he's got a lot of opinions on this issue as well. Dirk, why don't you say hi, and if you want to say 2 cents to get this started, we can. Otherwise, we can move over to Diana.
Hi, everybody. Dirk. I own MB Sport. We're a product development company. We've been working with Scott and Laura for about 3-4 years now, and it's been a really exciting relationship. The one thing I'll say as a precursor to this is the best piece of advice I got was when COVID exploded. My father, who also has opinions on everything, said to me, "You are going to spend the rest of this year maneuvering." And that did more to set my head in the right place to address, because this is not easy, but that did more just to put me in the right mindset. And with that, we're getting through this, and we're going to come out better on the other side as well. So thank you very much for having me, Scott.
What I do want to say, is one way to get through the COVID experience is partnerships with your vendors. And the moment things happened, and when, I called you up and said, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to pay you on time, and you said, we're going to work through this together. And my vendors became my friends. And in part, not quite my partners, but I kind of feel, that we're kind of partnering in this. So I want to talk about that in particular as we get into this. And I want to introduce Per, who is views himself as the price whisperer here. So Per, why don't you introduce yourself a bit, and I'll talk about our partnership as well.
Cool. Well, Scott, first of all, thank you for having me. And I'm looking forward to this conversation. What I do is in my company is a couple of things. We do price-specific market research, and we figure out what somebody is willing to pay for a product or a service, and then we take that that information about willingness to pay, and we correlate it with attributes about the product or service, attributes about the customer, the buyer, and attributes about the seller. All of this means that we can tell our customers the most desirable customer, meaning the customer that has the highest willingness to pay at the highest prices. We can tell our clients what features, functions, and benefit drives the highest willingness to pay at the highest prices. And we can tell our customers what marketing messages and positioning statements and sales channels and so forth that drives the highest willingness to pay at the highest prices.
And I engaged Per to do a price study before the pandemic hit, and much in the same fashion, I relied on Dirk to help us. I said, listen, I'm not sure I would have done this, had I known there was a pandemic, and I'm not sure I can afford it, because it's not an inexpensive process, but it is a fascinating process, and it should pay for itself many times over,
Yeah.
And I believe it will in time. So, there's a fascinating aspect to it. In part, it was the worst time to do the price study and to introduce it, but in part it was the best, because we increased our prices for the first time in 4 or 5 years fairly significantly as a result of, and some we reduced, but as a result of Per's input, and no one said boo, because there were no customers. So
that's not exactly true. There is customers.
Okay, but there were no complaints, and if we had to introduce the price increase when there were normal customer experience, we would have probably had a lot of people. I just looked at that RFID travel vest yesterday, and now it's, why is it 20% more? And we just didn't get it, and not a single complaint, which would have been common in
and no comments about the price drops either, because we did some. Well, but usually somebody would say something.
Oh, I just bought and I want a
refund.
Right. And Victor is our conservative who brought on Chips as our guest, and we love hearing his points of view as well. Thank you, Victor, for joining us, and of course, Diana.
Okay, I do have some retail background, as Laura well knows, because she grew up in the stockroom of, we had shops on high end of women's fashion. And there is somebody up there that loved my husband and me. I've been out of retail for 40 years. It has changed. I am watching it. It's kind of exciting and not exciting, but I must say retail is changing, and I wish I would have had Per around a million years ago.
Well, I was around a million years ago,
And of course, Laura is here, and I think there should be a way to show, to not show the. I'm showing twice there, but I think that's Brittany who's just managing. I think there's a button here that shows non-video. Only show video participants, but I can't figure out where that is. So let's just jump into this, okay? This is deep, and I having lived through it, and everyone read our article, we have lots of input on this, and I feel passionate about it. And we just went through, of all things, let me just say this: we went through the PPP, which was like horrible experience. A lack of utter clarity from the government. We still don't know how to get forgiveness. We didn't even know, if what we're paying our 3PL for storage counted as rent. That is part of it. We hired a bunch of people that we didn't need, that just to get on, which is the PPP, and later discovered that we didn't need them because they changed the percentage. So we've got PPP experience. We opened a retail store. We're in the travel industry. We're in a resort community. We have got a million things that, and let me add, my loan matured, on April 1, and during COVID. So I had to negotiate with my lender on what it would look like to get an extension during this period. And hi, Robert, nice to see you again. I didn't mean to ignore you by any means. We got that blue shirt for you, I think. So I'm just going to open up the floor, and we know I can talk for hours, but it's not about me, but I do have an opinion on all of this. So why don't you, Chip, lead off the discussion then?
Okay, well, I made some notes while you were talking. Thanks for having me, Scott. And Victor, thanks for referring me. What it's like to do business in a pandemic. I live in a resort community that has a very short season. If anybody's familiar with Cape Cod, I come from South Jersey, and the South Jersey Shore community, the season is from Memorial Day to Labor Day. Here, it's from the 4th of July to maybe a little bit after Labor Day. So it's 10 weeks for people to spend all their money, right? So we saw the writing on the wall in March that people weren't going to come. And our town, being a pro public health, pulled every permit for every event for the whole year. So we have a big we have a week called Carnival in August, or 100,000 people come to our town that has a year-round population of 2,500, and that's canceled. Everything else is canceled. And we have people who just rely on this to make their living. And what it's like to do business here, I feel like the people who, I do taxes for a lot and bookkeeping for a lot of small businesses in the resort community, and a lot of them don't have a plan. Those people are in trouble because they're just one step ahead of the bill collectors. Innkeepers use the deposits for next summer to pay the mortgage through the winter. So if people are canceling, they got to give refunds. What do they do? Stores that rent their space, they have to pay their landlord. Stores that own their space can negotiate a forbearance with their lender. So it's a little bit of everything. And then there's the seasonal workers. There's a lot of international workers, especially from Bulgaria on the J1 program. They're not here. And, and there's not a lot of work. People there's jobs. If anybody needs a job, come to Provincetown. You can find a job in a minute. And, I think it all comes to planning. I had a mentor who used to say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And I'm seeing that come true. And it's scary.
I mean, how do you plan? How do you plan?
Well, I'll tell you, this is a shore communities, as you know, Scott. A lot of it is cash, right? So people take the cash, and they can do what they want. I'm not their mother, and I'm not the IRS. They take the cash and blow it as fast as it comes in. So nobody is saving and planning for a rainy day because there's always next season. And I know people who go off to Puerto Vallarta for a month of January, and that's great, go. But then there goes your cushion. And there's no planning for a rainy day. My dad, God bless him, he's been dead just about a year. He always said, pay yourself first. And you put money away and you're ready for anything. And he was right. It took me 30 years to get that. But once I got it, we didn't close. I didn't lay anybody off. In fact, I had to hire somebody. Where as an accountant, I'm an essential service. So we didn't close. We worked remotely because essential doesn't mean immune. We worked remotely, and most of my staff is in the high risk zone, age and health wise. So we took care of that, but we really grew, and I planned, and I was here to provide a service for people. And I see the restaurants and bars in town here that are able to adapt. turn your parking lot into outdoor dining. You know, I can think of 2 or 3 that have done that.
Are there without the disclosing confident? Is everyone making a buck and staying afloat? The ones that
I have a friend who has a successful catering and restaurant operation here, and she was doing delivery through March and April. She has a year-round restaurant, and I called, just to be supportive. I called and ordered dinner from her one night, and she actually made the delivery. And we're talking, and her bartenders and waiters were collecting unemployment plus 600. So she wasn't worried about them. What she was worried about, I'm going to say this, were the illegals who work in her kitchen. So she was open to keep them paying their rent and buying food. So she made me cry, and I gave an extra $20 for a tip. But that's what a lot of people did. They stayed open to keep people employed. Now this person owns her building. She's been a successful business person in town for many years. She plans. So she turned her parking lot into a outdoor dining area, and she's successful. And a lot of folks don't have that option, because even though we're in a resort community, I can see the beach from where I'm sitting. A lot of buildings are landlocked, so you don't have outdoor space. You can't do sidewalk dining here. So unless you have a parking lot or some space in the back, you have to be creative. And those
some
folks
people are making a killing. Our pizza place here,
yes.
Even after they allowed people to sit in the restaurant, they have a window up, and all they're doing is pushing out pies, and they ask everyone, you're gonna give a tip to the guys making the pies, and everyone gives a tip, and and they often give a 20% tip. So they are literally printing money, and they probably got a PPP loan on top of it as well.
There's a pizza place here in town. They, fashioned their door like a half door, plexiglass, and they were cute about it. They had to reach out the money. It was like one of those pizza the things that they put in the oven with the pizza. Put your money in there. They take it back. They give you your change. And I have 2 delis. There's 2 delis I can think of that did the same thing, that had rigged up a door so that they could take orders, run in the back, give the order. A lot of folks did the barcode on their phone, so you can download the menu, order online, go pick up.
Yeah.
There's a takeaway place that doesn't even have indoor dining here that is doing a killing, because I walk by and there's people swarmed around it. A couple times I went and walked up, made an order. A couple times I did it online. It's they're making a killing, and I know all these people, and they're doing it for their people, for their guys and gals that are working for them. They're there's a lot of good people that are really committed to taking care of their folks.
So Dirk, how are you surviving with the risk of, I don't want to get detailed numbers, but I mean, we haven't placed an order. We're just bitching about you being late on all your orders. I mean,
I'm issuing POs on Monday.
Oh, well, there you go.
So
he deals with China and the production end of things. I mean, you got to be as bad off as a bar.
we are. It's. I'll start by saying we had a good warm up for COVID with all the tariffs that came in last year. That put us in a position of, we really, again, going back to the maneuvering comment, and it's just, you're suddenly drilling down in every detail. You're renegotiating, we've been renegotiating with our factories for over a year now in China, and we're only about 25% in China. But we started doing a fair amount of dancing with that. This year China was a challenge early, and then customers started to panic and move orders out. And then countries closed. We had Philippines and Mauritius both closed and Peru for over 2 months. And we're still digging out of a real logistical problem, because 50% of the cargo that's moved internationally via air is carried on commercial flights, and there's no commercial flights. So you're plus you're competing for space with PPE. So and one thing, and I'll be honest, I can give an honest assessment on it, is one thing that happened was I out of luck went to Hong Kong in early January and made some fairly dramatic staffing changes. I reduced the size of the office from 10 to 6. I let the person who'd been running the office go, who'd been working for us for 18 years, let him go. Promoted a number 2, moved to a different space. So I actually had put some savings in the works already, and that's been, the guy I promoted is killing it. It's going very well there. So I was a little lucky to be out ahead of this. The other thing is, Scott, we've got, as you know, some of our other customers, we have a few people who are in the travel space who are obviously struggling. We've got some other customers whose business is well up year over year. You know, some small retailers, some of the catalog customers have seen people paying more attention to their catalogs and had good springs. So there's always ebb and flow to the business. You know, from our standpoint, we took an approach of first we're going to tighten the belt, which we did, and we did it over there. We did it here some, just to give ourselves some room. And then the other thing, and this is where you're doing the same thing I am, Scott, which is, you know, to get through this, you need to be 2 things. And the first is you need to be positive. Yes, this stinks. There's days that I go home and the dog runs away from me. But if you approach this, especially if you're in a role like we are, if you approach this, if I go negative, I pull my employees, I pull my customers, I pull my family down with me. So you've got to go into this and you've got to stay positive. And you've got to be looking for the solutions. The other thing is you need to be deliberate. We had one customer who I refused to name, who's a very substantial customer, panic, pushed out millions of dollars of business, and then turned around and I said, watch, this pendulum's going to swing back. And it swung back, and suddenly we were scrambling and unable to meet the deliveries because we had put things on hold because they reacted too quickly. So, you know, how are we getting through it? Like I said at the beginning, every day is different. I am looking at my company and my business at a much more precise level than I have in years. It's all about what we're going to do to be profitable this year, to keep the bank happy, and to set ourselves up for success in 2021. And right now, knock on wood, we're looking forward to next year. The other benefit we have is for most of our customers, especially our big ones, we are a very substantial supplier for them. We love working with guys like Scott and Laura, who have a good, strong retail presence, but aren't particularly looking to invest in all the infrastructure needed for product development. So we have some very good customer relationships, and we've got great customers, and that's how we're getting through this.
Well, that's really helpful. I mean, we've done the same, in January as well. We reduced our staff, before the pandemic. We've outsourced a lot of our customer service, something we had tried to do for years, and we went from a staff as high as 19 people on our payroll to really 3 full-time employees. We have several part-time employees and lots of contractors and stuff as well. So it forced us, in part to get lean and on a net income basis, even though our top line sales are dramatically reduced, especially Amazon. Amazon we can talk about, because the heavy reliance on Amazon has been horrible as a result of this pandemic. But year over year, especially once you take into account the PPP forgiveness, whenever that happens, on a net income basis, we're ahead of last year because it forced us to do better. And I think when we look back as a macroeconomic standpoint, the businesses that survive are going to be stronger, better, and as a result of this. Per, do you want to chime in? I'm sure you've got a lot of thoughts and opinions on.
Well, for my company, this has been interesting because our sales are skyrocketing.
Wow.
well, it's not, when the decision landscape change, there's some companies who realize that, okay, now what I thought I knew, I don't know any longer, so I better find out.
Mhm.
And that is why companies are coming to us more than ever, and what we've been able to see in several projects that we've done before and after is that, yes, the landscape and the decision landscape is changed, willingness to pay is changed, but it also is different for just to give you an example, we did a before and after for major, we measured this for major brands in the in the what do you call it, kitchen appliance market, and and oddly enough, we could see that, for example, one brand is Bosch. We could see that their whole decision landscape had moved, so they can maintain their original sales level, but at lower prices. We could see that Samsung has will see an overall drop in sales at all prices, and we can also see that Electrolux, for example, would have very little. The pandemic would have very little impact on their sales volume. And interestingly enough, once they published the Q2 results, was a almost no change in sales volume for them, and we were able to predict that long before they reported. So, and that is because they are focusing on a very specific customer group. So, find that very.
And I forgot to mention, by the way, in addition to all the other ways which we were impacted as well, we're revamping our entire website, starting almost over and rebranding and going back on television, because television is at historically low cost levels, because a lot of advertisers don't know how to advertise. And so, and yet there's the highest viewership ever because of the quarantine, and no one's producing new content, and there's no sports. So we have a very major TV buy.
Openers tonight. There's sports.
We have a very major TV buy coming in August. That's gonna, it's a pretty big bet that I'm not sure we would have done. It forces you to make decisions and be deliberate, as I think Dirk had mentioned as well. I'm fascinated by it. I get really depressed. I'll be candid with you. Every night I started not drinking heavily, but much to Diana's dismay, I literally have 2 glasses of wine I needed to numb myself down. And Laura would say, we're not the only ones going through this. The whole world is going through this, and the bank can't foreclose on everyone. I mean, at the same time. I mean, so, but it's not a position I want to be in. I mean, Wells Fargo was kind enough to delay the payment of our mortgage. I'm never in a charitable situation. I never asked for charity.
Well, and the PPP, I mean, that was the weirdest. I mean, that's the first time we've ever taken advantage of like a government handout. And the Main Street lending program, no one even knows what it is, even to this day. I'd be interested, Chip, if what do you know anything about whether or not the Main Street lending program is going to happen, or whether they're going to extend and do another PPP, or someone's microphone is too close to their speaker.
When the PPP loan, when the forgiveness comes, I think the SBA, God bless them for getting all that money out to people who needed it, but I think that they're so ill-equipped to police and manage the payback that it's going to be a disaster. And I was talking to my lending officer, my personal lending officer, my bank, the other day, and she said she's heard rumblings that under a certain amount, they're just going to have you sign a piece of paper saying you used it what you were supposed to use it for and forget it, rather than doing all sorts of backup and things like that. Most of my clients got in the under $100,000 range for PPP, because initially, if you remember, there was the window of time that you used.
Yeah.
It was off peak. It was winter. Then they let you go back and do a 12 or 16 week cycle when you were busy to maximize it. But then if you're not busy, you're not using it. So then they dropped it down to 60, and people got to catch up with their rent. So I think they're kind of manipulating it so that people do use it all up, so that there's not going to be a lot of detail in the forgiveness. Because I have a good friend, Steve, who's a CPA and a good colleague and a good friend. He said all he can think about is, in 10 years, the congressional investigations into this. Because it's so ripe for fraud. So why not just say, forget it, under a certain amount? Now, one of my clients got almost $900,000 in PPP.
Wow.
And they're a social service agency, and they did not lay one person off, and they continued to provide services to their clients, who are among the poorest and neediest and most vulnerable in the country. And so they were able to get that, and we were able to use it for what it was used for. So I have no doubt that we're going to get total forgiveness on that. The EIDL loans, which everybody got from, I've seen people from $6,000 to $150,000, those are a little different. They're doing this payments are due in a year, starting in a year, 30 years, 3.75%. You know, you pay $80 a month for the rest of your life. You know, that's a no-brainer. And but the Main Street program, you're right, nobody knows a lot about that, including me.
It's insane, and that's, I was looking for that because there's got to be a lot of businesses that their loan matured during this period, and their bank is going to not, you'll want to extend it for a full year. There's got to be a lot of refinances that need to happen, and like ours, and the fact that there hasn't been guidance there is, you know, and I know our resident conservative here, Victor, you might want to chime in. He teaches business school. I mean, how this administration, and we all know my views on that, but can't recognize the importance of providing guidance on the Main Street lending, because that would solve all my problems. And yet the banks have no idea, you know, of what's going on there. I know there's some SBA loans. Victor, do you want to add?
Well, and first, you're mixing me up with another guy who's.
I apologize. Oh, then
I'm concerned, but I am a conservative. So, but I'm not a business school guy.
All right, my apologies.
No. I just didn't want to jump out there with anything that somebody thinks is authoritative. But no, I mean, from a conservative perspective, I mean, all of this was necessary to one degree or another. I have serious concerns about the way some of these things were done. The $600, the idea that you can make almost half my salary as an unemployed person is somewhat disconcerting to me. But quite frankly, when all of this stuff was passed, it was, hey, listen, we've got a pandemic and a huge impact to the entire economy. What do we do? And stuff was thrown against the wall. And I'm glad to hear that some of those things are really helping, like the PPP loans and even the additional money for unemployment, because we need to keep the economy going. And I get that, but at the same time, I do have some concerns with regards to whether or not we end up doing things that will negatively impact the economy in time.
Someone's behind you wanting to tap you, but to that end, God bless the Fed chair who's just artificially propping up the market to a degree that, I'm not sure there's much logic to. But at the point when the market got really killed, my liquidity requirements were going. I was getting close to a margin call because I've used my stock to fund the business over the past year, so I can pay Dirk and Pear, what I owe them. So, but it's interesting what's happening at the Federal Reserve. It's completely illogical to me that the stock market and earnings of these major companies are not, affected massively. But I guess when the Fed can print money, that's what you get.
Well, and I'm constantly reminded of the comment on the Kai Rizdal on Marketplace. The stock market is not the economy, because
No.
the stock market is just a complete mess, stupid, whatever. I don't know what they're doing there, because it has no reflection whatsoever of even the midterm of what I personally expect the economy to do. I mean, there's so much of this that doesn't make sense. And to a degree, again, I understand that this is a unprecedented situation. But from a conservative perspective, I don't understand why people are pouring money into the stock market, except that they are gambling. They may as well be going, because they can't go to Vegas because Vegas is closed. I mean,
Well, you're gambling with the house putting a thumb on your side, because they're propping up the market artificially. Having said that, where else are you going to put your money? With interest rates being nothing, and the long term, all these earnings are going to come back. But I mean, you look at the market. There's no way that the disposable. I'm shocked that we're not in apocalyptic times. Given, if you had said to me last year that in our case, our revenues are down by more than 50%. I suspect that's the case with a lot of people. That revenues across the board, for the most part, are down 50%. What does that do to the economy? The fact that I can buy a pizza last night, surprises me. I don't even know where I got that money. I mean, So
I think I just read this morning, which I think is relevant and interesting, and that is that suddenly being a bloody foreigner here, I'm looking at what's happening in Europe, and there suddenly they've seen the strongest economic growth in like forever.
Yeah.
Because they took a different approach to COVID, where they were much more significant with their shutdowns than we were almost anywhere here in the U.S. They sort of bit the bullet, and now they are recouping very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, they're back in business.
Yeah, they're back in business.
But they're not, insofar as the travel industry in Europe was significant, especially during the summer. I mean, they can't be back in business fully. I mean, they've lost at least a lot of the U.S. coming over there.
Well, the U.S. people are not let in.
Right.
Right.
So yeah, the travel industry may still be suffering, but the general economy is starting to go as a rocket.
Yeah, I mean, in Europe, the kids are going back to school. Like, things are actually getting normal.
Yeah.
Or as normal
to some
as
extent.
it's going to be. Yeah, I mean, we're not going to be normal for a while. But...
So.
What I'm worried about, if I can jump in, is that what's going to happen in a couple of years. Right now, people are collecting the extra 600 unemployment, which is keeping them flush, which is great. That's going to end. People are being overly generous. I saw on Facebook, go support your local businesses, your local restaurants. I stopped and got a sandwich for lunch yesterday, and I clicked the 30% button for the tip, because these guys are working hard in a bad situation. What's going to happen when all that goes away and people have to start paying their mortgage again and have to start just living life, not normal, because we're never going to have normal, but have to start doing the things without the extra 600, without the extra goodwill that this situation is generating among the general public? Like I live in a small town. There's two independent hardware stores here. I go buy my stuff there because I don't want to buy it on Amazon because I want to keep these guys in business. That's always, that's just not now. But what happens when all that changes and the people who aren't doing that, who do go to Amazon, stop going to the local guy? I mean, it's all gonna, I think in 2 or 3 years, we're really gonna see the fallout of this. Not now.
Well, I hope that there's some normalcy next year. Dirk, you were about to say something? You're mute. I can't. You're muted yourself. Oh, hold on.
I hate when people do that. Sorry about that.
No worries.
And I'm a Zoom snob, so I think I could be better. So Scott, one of the things that I'd love to hear more about from your perspective, because I don't do any business directly with Amazon. I've been watching some of the things the company's been doing, and I'm a little surprised they're not getting called out for it more publicly than they are. But you referenced in the article the challenges and them putting warnings on your products and other things. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that experience from you.
I'll let Laura because she primarily managed the Amazon among others.
I always have, and I mean, Amazon is beyond difficult. I mean, they've set it up so that you have to be on Amazon. You really can't function without it. And we grew so much on Amazon, like by the end of 2019, 50% of our business was on Amazon. And when this started, they said we couldn't ship to the warehouses anymore. They put, like I said, warnings on all our products, like we don't know when this is going to ship, even though we were shipping the same products that you could buy on Amazon and we'd ship it. They said we couldn't do any coupons, discounts, anything. And meanwhile, we have all this inventory sitting in their warehouses all over the country that was just sitting there that we couldn't move because
they deprioritized everything that wasn't essential, quote unquote, essential.
Yeah, and we're not essential.
And to this day, it hasn't recovered. It used to be 50% of our business was through Amazon, and now it's probably 30.
Yeah. Well, and even so, like I know they're opening more warehouses and hiring lots of people and this, that, and the other, but Amazon used to be like clockwork. I knew when I shipped to certain warehouses, which you have no say where you ship because you put in a shipping plan and they tell you how much to ship where they want it to go. But when I had the addresses of where things were going, I knew how quickly it would be received at those warehouses. Now, I mean, there's one that is near our fulfillment center in Illinois. It used to be received next day, worst case scenario, 2 business days. I've now had things sit there for 3.5 weeks and they don't check it in. So basically we've shipped it, it's not on their site to sell, and it's just sitting in the warehouse. And I just check a couple times a day, like, have they checked it in yet? So they control so much of the market.
They're a monopoly. They're antitrust.
Yeah, I mean, going back to shipping originally, I mean, when they started, people love Prime, free second day air, now free next day, now free same day certain places, which is ridiculous. And for us, I mean, shipping, our rates keep going up, 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 up. And customers expect, well, they want free shipping, they want free returns. They're like, well, Amazon does it. And we're like, and Amazon doesn't make money on it. They did it as a loss leader, yeah. And then they cornered the market, which, like, how do you compete?
That's the definition of an antitrust predatory pricing behavior.
Right.
So,
antitrust.
I mean, Dirk, it really, it's horrible. The Amazon impact, I think that, but for the Amazon impact, and I know that they're the frontline essential workers and the commercial, and I'm an Amazon fan. I mean, but they mismanaged their business, and what they did to small businesses that weren't selling masks, were probably more costly. And if I would like to see anything develop as a result of this, and I know there's some incentive for Trump to go after Bezos, Amazon needs to be broken up. They need to be regulated. They need to, it's horrible.
Well,
it's horrible.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Well,
I buy a lot of stuff on Amazon, but they still is. I mean, they are a monopoly, and
Yeah.
and that's never good.
No, I mean, pre-pandemic, they put so many small businesses out of business. I mean,
They're the new Walmart. They're
Yeah,
trying
exactly what I was thinking of. Yeah.
yeah, we
See,
have like
my perspective here with Amazon is, I hope this comes home to roost, is I think the company's taken COVID as an opportunity to decrease the service level, to increase their profits, to stretch out shipping times, to stick it to little guys who they can. I really hope we see coming out of this. It'd be great if the government went after them. I don't know that that's going to happen, but I hope consumers come out of this looking at them, looking at the company a little bit differently. I know my family will.
Yeah, I know. I ordered a book through Prime that I ordered it on like a Monday or a Tuesday, figuring I'd have it that weekend to read. Well, it may be 2-day shipping, but it's 2-day shipping from when they get around to processing the order, which could be weeks later, which is so ridiculous.
I also think that people are now, they're in the essential worker mindset, so they appreciate the folks that work in the local hardware stores, and even something like CVS, which is a chain. But here, our local grocery store, I wouldn't dream of buying paper towels anywhere but, or light bulbs or anything, anywhere but the 2 hardware stores in the local supermarket. And that keeps my neighbors employed. And that's so important to me, because I'm a small business owner, and I don't want people going to H&R Block or using TurboTax or trying to do it themselves. I want them to come to me because I'm part of the community. And I think we're getting back to that a little from what I'm seeing, and I hope that continues.
Yeah, I know Scott did something nice for like one of our local yoga studios, because we're another small resort town, lots of small businesses, and when they were finally allowed to reopen, they couldn't have enough people in the studio to basically cover their costs. And we, on the roof of our building, have like a great outdoor deck, so Scott let them have classes here until the city finally gave them a permit in the park. So for like 3-4 weeks, we had yoga on the roof several days a week.
And I was selfishly trying to, bring traffic into our retail store and made them walk in and out of the retail store to get there. We did sell one product, but anything helps in this day and age. And I think that coming almost a little full circle as to where I started with this is that the partnership with Dirk. I mean, candidly, but for that phone call I made to Dirk when this started and said, listen, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to pay you. And he said, listen, I'm here to support you. That extended 20 years of business with Dirk. I mean, I candidly, but for that phone call, I might have beat him up harder on pricing or not treated him as a partner. And you get to see what people are made of. And when I turn to Per and say, Per, I know I owe you X dollars. Can you spread this out? And we worked on it as we're human beings having a conversation, recognizing that we were in this together. And I wish my bank would be, Wells would just say, listen, let's stop playing this game. I'm literally losing sleep every night at 3 a.m. I'm wondering, how am I going to pay back Wells? And if they just said, listen, we're there for you through the end of the year, it would help immensely. They're not going to say that, though.
But Scott, I think you're in a situation where the amount, if I understood it from our conversation yesterday, the amount you have borrowed means that the bank has a problem more than you have a problem. I mean, you borrow a little bit of money and you have a problem if you can't pay it back. If you borrow a lot, the lender have a problem.
In our case, because we haven't defaulted on our loan and we're paying interest, and we've gotten inventory appraisals that yesterday that show that if they needed to foreclose on the inventory, they're fully secured. They really don't have a problem. I would argue that they have a bigger problem, that if they start foreclosing on businesses like ours, in Wells Fargo's case in particular, the noise that gets made reputationally, is insurmountable. If people like me would start to complain. So
also just operation, they can't go across the shutting, they start shutting everything down, their asset base is gone.
Yeah.
You know, they're not going to go, they're not going to come in and, they can't come in and run SCOTTeVEST.
Yeah.
And 5,000 other SCOTTeVESTs, they can't do that. They just need to stop, you know, throwing their weight around.
Yeah, and that's really what it is. I mean, yeah, so, you know, our loan came due in the middle of this, but we've never missed a payment. We've never been late. You know, it's like, the dates didn't work out, you know?
And it's funny, I was
And they're
negotiating
taking it
a 2-month extension at the beginning of March, and it was going to be an expensive negotiation, you know, ridiculous. And as every day went on, you know, it was less expensive. So they did recognize that, you know, and they could have said, listen, you know, yesterday you were willing to pay $10,000 a month to extend, you know, just because, you know, you should. So they did work with us, and I,
Good.
you know, unlike looking at you, Dirk, and sharing with you my experience, or Per, you know, dealing with the larger players like that, you don't know if there's a human. And I hope maybe as a result of all of this, that there's going to be that human connection that recognizes that when you do business, you're doing it with a human being on the other side, and hopefully it'll be Amazon's demise and Wells Fargo's demise, and I'm working now with smaller bankers. You know, maybe that's what happens. I don't know.
Well, I agree with you on the banking situation. Coincidentally, I refinanced my mortgage in January from Wells Fargo to a local bank, Cape Cod 5 here on Cape Cod. And when all this happened, I'm like, thank God, because if I miss a mortgage, I can call up the person who processed my paperwork and get a person who knows me, who I've seen at restaurants, who is part of the community, who can help me if I need it. If I called Wells Fargo, I know what I would get. Yeah. And I think it is a return. We have 3 local banks, 3 community banks here on the Cape, and they all, you know, they're all in business to help the community grow. They're not in business for their bottom line. Of course, they need to make money, but their business is helping other businesses. And it sounds corny, but it's true. I know people. I had 2 guys who bought a guest house here in Provincetown in January. No bank would give them a loan, but they had a business plan, they had a reserve, they had everything else. Small local bank had faith in them, gave them the loan, and you know what? They were able to open as soon as guest houses were able to open, and they're generating revenue not only for themselves, but for the town, because people are coming in, going to restaurants as they can, going to shows as they can, and bringing goodwill from the town. And people really, that's what people need right now.
Well, I don't know what's happening in your real estate market, but ours, you know, I'm told is off the charts. You know, 20% in the last 60 days or so. You know, which helps me immensely because I've got a lot invested in real estate. You know, it seems like the whole world has discovered that, number one, you don't have to be in big cities. You can commute, and perhaps there's something to be said for, you know, living in a resort community and working wherever you need to work. And
well, I really believe this is going to kill commercial real estate.
Oh yes, yes.
We're an hour north of New York City. There are commuter lines from our town into the city. And real estate here, which has been getting destroyed for the last 5 years, is absolutely on fire. Everybody's fleeing the city. They want to come out to the Connecticut burbs. And it's been incredible to see the demand in the last 4 months.
Well, funny enough, I've had that conversation with several realtors that sells commercial real estate, and they are essentially all saying that no, it's not going to go away because people now are going to be spread out in their offices in a different way. So it's going to go the other way.
Do you believe that?
No, I don't.
Well,
it is pure wishful thinking of these guys. I think Dirk is exactly right. You know,
we're actually going to be converting potentially some of our retail space below into residential space.
Yeah. Well, think about all the malls.
Yes, they're doing that, which is, I can't even begin to imagine what that looks like, but you know, we're absolutely contemplating.
Yeah. So
Diana, this is the quietest you've been in your entire life.
Well, I can only tell you, I live in a big city. The malls are dead. I understand that Water Tower filed bankruptcy.
Whoa.
The Nordstrom Mall is open. A couple of stores are open. The Bloomingdale Mall is open, and they've had nothing but, well, many of the stores did not open, but Gucci has been vandalized since they reopened. I walked past it yesterday. All the windows are blocked off, and this is on Michigan Avenue. The little stores in neighborhoods, on Armitage and a few other of the neighborhoods, some of them are open, but no, I don't know any. Neiman Marcus, they just vandalized it again. They had to close it again. It's just
Neiman Marcus is in bankruptcy.
Yeah. Well, they're in reorganization. Yeah, I got to go spend I have a credit there. I better go spend it soon, right?
So I want
to want lipstick, but no, I don't need lipstick anymore because when you wear a mask, you don't need lipstick.
Well, that's a perfect segue. I promised that this would not be a full hour talking about masks that we've done before, but I want to bring people up to speed. Thanks to Dirk and his wonderful idea.
It's a gator.
We have a gator, our first sample of a gator that looks really good, super comfortable. Let me show you.
Try it on.
Yeah.
So
that's where it looks really good.
Yeah, keep your face covered.
So subtle logo, right? I got it.
Yep, it's there.
And it's got pockets.
It's got pockets. It's got a little neck thing, and it's comfortable. It's got actually, I'm going to wear it around and see how comfortable it is in the wild. It's got. I feel like it's too comfortable, like it's not protecting anything. But there's a room for a filter if you want to make it harder to breathe. But right now. And then one of the things I hate about masks, you always got to put it in your pocket and you forget where it is. Now it's around my neck. I'm ready to go. And, it's got pockets, and we designed it to I'm not sure how it's going to fold into itself. And then there's a little pocket for a credit card.
Yeah, I got my credit card
and here's the lipstick pocket. I did, lipstick
What
pocket.
color, Scott?
Well,
what
I
color?
think we have available fabric in black, so we're going to be Henry Ford on this. Make it whatever color you want, so long as it's black, and it's going to have an ability to wrap your cell phone in it, so it'll be a case. And I threw in an idea that maybe it could double as an eyeglass holder case. Obviously, you can't have all this stuff on, but maybe, I don't know. So I want to thank Dirk, and I want to thank everyone for giving your comments on this. This will be a crowdsourced mass. So in the interest, we had 3 minutes. Does anyone have anything to wrap up? This has been an informative conversation. I've enjoyed it.
I'll go. I think this whole situation about working at home is also going to change. We talked about real estate, commercial real estate. Companies, nonprofit, government agencies I've been working with for years, you can't send things electronically. We have to have paper. All of a sudden, one day, we're allowed to send. Not only that, we were forbidden to send paper.
Yeah.
That's people this couldn't work or have been proven wrong.
Well, that's interesting. We have, with our one employee, when he was working from home during the quarantine, he's not here right now. We thought, well, it's just as effective. He's been back for the last 2 weeks. I hate to tell him. I think he realized it's better to have him here. I think physical presence is better.
I think we're going to find on that. I have a much more office space than I need. I think we're going to find on that there is a happy balance. I've been coming in virtually every day, but that's just because I got 4 kids and home is loud. But we've reopened. We have about a third of the team coming in on a regular basis, and it is truly a much more energized environment to be working with them. So I think what will come out of this is it will be a change for the big offices, but I think we do need to keep coming together. We are social creatures.
Yeah.
Perry, I understand you got to take off here. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. We do this every Friday. You're welcome to join.
And good
Not
news.
always.
Rich news. He's downstairs with 4 customers. I just looked
4?
at the camera.
Oh,
4.
really? All right. Well, we're
Yeah,
gonna.
we're doing a benefit for a local charity today.
And by the way,
Donating
our
percentage of
average
sales.
customer value for people in the store is probably $400 per person on their first purchase, compared to $140 on the website. So retail is not dead by any means. You know, we're going to start to see, on one day we had a $700 order, and that represented a significant, you know, portion of our orders. We just need to get people in our store. So
Yep.
No people.
All right.
Scott, this has been great. I forgot I do have another call. Can I give you a call in about an hour?
Yep. Or ping me and we'll figure it out. Thank you, everyone.
This has been
Thank you.
fun.
Great talk.
Thank you.
I love it. I feel like Reverend Al on MSN.
All right. Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Robert. Bye-bye.
Bye, Mom.